No. Rhodri.
Is there anything that Lionel Messi is better than you at? It's opinions. I respect the opinions. Maybe in your opinion Messi is better than me, but in my mind I'm better than him.
I do it again.
Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Told her if it's all me, everything is on me. Gon' back it up. Matter what? Told you I'ma do me. Why you hating on me? It's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck. Country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Like scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month. I don't rap much. I just hit the money and go stack up. Only buy car cards and get tatted up. All that other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. No fault, I done doubled up on the workload. I think I fell in love with the bankroll. Pray up, get money, then we lay low. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up,
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of Rhodri Giggs on football. We're live everywhere today, YouTube, Twitter, the works, little Patreon preview. But for those of you who don't know, you can watch us live every week on patreon.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. Of course, the audio version, free to all. But normally we're behind the paywall. But we thought we'd give it to everyone. Let Rhodri give his reaction to United having a little playoff now for the Europa League, among other things. Harry Maguire playing up front.
Super Six.
All the usual stuff. We'll talk about the Super Six as well. So yeah, as we just wait for some latecomers and that, I suppose we'll talk about the Super Six Prediction League, which we're doing. We're raising money for charity, of course, which is the main things, what it's all about. But a little update. Assuming that everyone is wanted. I mean, we don't have to talk about it. We can talk about anything else.
We should have. We should know what we should have. We should have the capabilities of playing playback from last week, where you're rambling on.
Don't know what you're on about, mate. Don't know what you're on about. I'm very, very humble, very humble. But another 2 rounds have passed since last week, and well done to Jason Davis, who topped Saturday's round, and Jason Whitworth, who topped the midweek round with the highest individual score of the season with a massive 24 points, which is impressive. So congratulations to both Jasons. But let's have a look how mine and Rhodri's battles gone, as I had pulled some points back on Rhodri, so the pressure was getting to him a little bit. But like the true professional that he is, he came back strong. This week, Rhodri scored 23 points in total. I scored 17, which means that Rhodri currently has a 9-point lead, with me on 139 and Rhodri on 148. But it's still close, and there's still a long way to go. That's all I will say. And as let's
you just need the World Cup break to go on, so you can
mate. Well, once the proper football starts,
let the pressure off, so you can
Well, so I can do it every single day and forget it. Like, imagine, I forget a couple of days, it could be all over, couldn't it? That's the problem, isn't it? The pressure's on then.
No.
But yeah, as you would have heard, I'm joined as ever by ex-FC United, Salford City winger, Mr. Rhodri Giggs. You good, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'm kind of sick of the rain, mate. Like, I don't know what it's been like. But
it's been lovely. It's been cracking the flags here today. Had a little shower about
week.
2:30, but other than that, no, it's been all right.
This week there's been non-stop just rain, like every day, pretty much all day. Just
I'd say
frustrating. They've already called off the kids' games for Saturday.
Really?
Yeah, it's been that bad. Like,
no, it's not that bad. It's like the 3rd of December, and we was talking about it before. Saying how hot it was. It was like 22 degrees, 21 degrees on the 3rd of November. Usually around, mind you, when the sun goes down, it gets colder, doesn't it? But it was warm.
Yeah, but do you know when, like, you were kids, right? So, like, when I was a kid, I always remember November. My birthday was like is next Friday, you know. So like I always remember that like it was like as soon as November, I know my birthday was coming because it'd be freezing in the morning. Like you'd see your breath, frost and everything everywhere. You just don't see it now, mate. Even like where it's rained and the weather's been shocking all week. Like it's not particularly it's cold, but it's not freezing. Like
well, come December, January, it'll be a bit frosty, it'll be fresh out.
Global warming, mate. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Blame the Tories. But enough of that, mate. Come on. What are you on about? So lots to discuss, mate. Football has been it's been an interesting week all around. Like the Premier League is fascinating to me at the moment. Like I look at Arsenal and I look at Newcastle. They're doing, exceptionally well. Liverpool, where they play a couple of good games, and you think, right, they're back to it now, and then they struggle. I think United, you can see improvements there, but there's still a bit of work to be done, I think, is fair to say. But I find it really interesting because you could potentially have a top four this season without United and Liverpool in it, which is, a couple of years ago, that would have been almost unheard of because the teams outside of the top six just weren't anywhere. There was such a big gap, wasn't there, between those?
So who's you'd say Tottenham staying there?
Well, Man City, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal for Newcastle.
Chelsea don't look really great at the minute, to be honest.
Oh, but all right. So if you take, you could have the top four now is Arsenal, Man City, Tottenham, and Newcastle. So you'd have United, Chelsea, Liverpool, all missing out on top.
Usually you'd say Newcastle, but they can strengthen with whoever they want,
isn't it?
So, but still, I'd say Newcastle because they still got the quality and depth. But if they carry on going like they're going, they'll definitely make it.
Well, mate, their form is unreal. They've won 4 of the last 5, drew the other one.
And Old Trafford.
And what you got to, like you made a great point now, is like come January now, if they're still 3rd or 4th and they're, well in there, why wouldn't they go and spend 100 mil and get some real world-class players to make sure they make the top 4?
Yeah, because it'll attract the players as well. If we go to the Champions League spot, and like 300 grand a week. Yes, please.
Yeah. And like, if I'm Eddie Howe, mate, today, like I'm reading the papers today and I'm seeing the noises coming out of United that they're not going to spend in January, I'm thinking, well, do you know what? I think I might, because they got the money. So why wouldn't you go?
But United are on a mission now where he only wants the right players. So, like elite players. I'd say like a Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, or centre forward that fits the bill for him. I think we're okay for wingers. We've got what we've got, and we've got the young kid that's coming through that we'll talk about later. Here's
a question then.
The midfield is like chalk and cheese now. With Eriksen, Casemiro in there, you just got 2 experienced ball players who keep the ball and experience as well. Well,
funny enough, I'm gonna ask you a question about the United midfield in a minute because there's something I noticed earlier, which I think could be an indication of where it's going to go later in the season and next season particularly. But what about, say, just for instance, like Frankie de Jong, who United were linked with all summer, didn't end up happening. He is struggling at Barcelona this season, Barcelona.
They're playing him centre-half as well, and they're messing him about, aren't they?
So, like, if Newcastle come in with whatever they want for him, they bid that, and they offer him 300 grand a week, you cannot tell me that he at least will not be tempted.
Yeah, be tempted, but if you ask him, if I'm Frankie de Jong, I'm thinking, do I go to Newcastle or stay in Barcelona? Staying in Barcelona.
Yeah, and I suppose he's also got the option of picking up the phone and saying, right, to phone in Ten Hag and saying, I'm ready to go leave Barcelona. Do you still want me?
Yeah, well,
before he makes that decision.
If that comes about, then, like I said, they're after a certain type of player, an elite type of player, and Frankie de Jong fits the bill, along with the other names I've just mentioned, and possibly a centre half. Don't think they need a left back. They've got 2 there. I think they need another right back because obviously Wan-Bissaka's not for his like.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka's definitely done. Yeah, made some more comments about him this week.
Because at the end of the season, Ronaldo's off. He doesn't leave in January, but I don't think he'll leave in January. But he'll leave at the end of the season. But we need to get centre forward.
Yeah, I can see that. Interesting though, it's like I mentioned this to you last week, but like you said, they don't need a left back. A couple of weeks ago, I think we clipped it as well. Like you were adamant, Luke Shaw was done at United.
No, yeah, but But I did say, last time someone come in, it improved his performance, and healthy competition is good competition, and it makes people better, and that's what it's done with Luke Shaw. Just hopefully he can keep it up now, because it only benefits Man United. But he's had 8 years, and he just needs to. We've seen runs, but not consistent year after year. It's either a year will be good or a year will be bad, but the managers he's had have been bad as well. To be honest, I know they've some of them had big caliber names, but that midfield, whoever's stuck with that midfield for the last 3 years, and now what we're seeing with the midfield we've got, and we can all see it. We can all see it. That midfield for the last 3 years has been shocking.
Well, do you know what? They started tonight with Casemiro, Van de Beek, and Eriksen. And I looked at that and I thought, you know what? I think when he was looking for Frankie de Jong, that's the 3 which he would have played eventually as his first choice 3 would have been de Jong, Casemiro, and Eriksen.
What about Fernandes?
But I think he would have played Fernandes not necessarily as wide as he did tonight, because I think he played him wide tonight to do a job on the winger of Sociedad. But you could still play those 3 and play Fernandes as like a 10 behind Rashford and whoever. There's you don't have to play the three in a 4-3.
And again, it's bringing quality players to make people better, and it's healthy competition, and it's a good squad. These are the type of problems that you need to be having as a manager at Man United. Be bringing the quality in, where people are fighting for the places. You don't know who's going to play, because the quality on the bench is that good. That's what it used to be like. That's what I'm going back to. It's the same with City. They can put in Mahrez, Foden, Grealish. It doesn't really matter. De Bruyne, Rhodri. They've got Phillips. They've just got an array of talent. So, but whoever they put in, they knows the system and knows what they're doing, and it's equal of quality.
So while we're on United, we may as well talk about the game that's just finished. United beat Sociedad 1-0. I thought United were very, very good in the first half. Sociedad,
Arsenal just scored.
Are they really?
There
you go. Like I think people write off. So it's like Sociedad are a very good side. They probably lack like a world-class striker, but they're up to the sort of final thing. They're very, very good.
Yeah, they are good. They are good, but they're still 5th in the league and missing 6 or 7 players.
I think United should have been able to beat them by 2. I do. But
I think it would have been if they had a full team.
They lost.
Sancho wasn't there. Martial wasn't there. Who else wasn't there? Anthony wasn't there. So there's 3 players that arguably will start.
Yeah, and I mean they've all been quite good in recent weeks as well, haven't they? Those players. Yeah. But do you think he went to 3 at the back? That formation that he did use at Ajax when they were chasing games. Do you think he went to it a bit early? Because I felt like United looked quite dangerous on the counter-attack before that.
You try things as a coach when you think it's gone stale, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it hasn't. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And unfortunately, this time it didn't work out, and then it just turned out to be a scatty game. And there was no really chances created, and it was all over the place in the end. But it's something to learn from, and probably won't do again.
Yeah, it just went a bit disjointed, didn't it? And I just felt like actually, because Sociedad were, up until the last sort of 5 minutes or so, they were going for it as well. And I felt like if United had kept the same sort of shape that they had, they actually could have picked them off on the break easier than when they went 3 at the back, because like you had players playing like for some reason he had Fernandes wide and Rashford at number 10, which I didn't really understand that, and I didn't think Rashford had his best game when he came on. But I think it is also difficult to come on when you're chasing a game like that and you're playing a new formation and he's playing in a probably quite relatively unfamiliar position.
He has played there before, though. Yeah, he's played there before.
Yeah, I think
for England before as well and played very well. So it just
I don't want to be too harsh on him because I think this season his attitude and his performances have been a million times better. Like I was so unimpressed and quite disappointed by his attitude last year. Like just walking about and not chasing down, and all the things that you would associate with Rashford off the ball, he wasn't doing, which made me question to you. Was he happy? Is he going to go? Whatnot? But I think this year he looks an all-round better footballer for one. But I also think, he's just. I think it's different. It was a difficult situation for him tonight. I want to ask you just lastly on United. Souness, Carragher, who else was it? Someone else saying that Lisandro Martinez is still going to be a problem for United because of his height, and Souness said he's not very good on the ball and this. And what I found really refreshing was Virgil van Dijk come out today and basically just embarrassed them and counteracted all their points. He didn't name them, unfortunately, which I was a bit, I would have loved that. But he did kind of say, no, he's going to be top class. Like he is very good. And I think we've all been impressed by his performances. He had that one bad game at the start against Brentford. And then since then, he's been like a rock. And it's not just his performances, his defensive play, his play on the ball. It's his whole attitude and demeanour has rubbed off on the squad, and that type of player, that type of demeanour is something United have lacked for probably at least a few years. But what do you think when you see the likes of Souness, Carragher, and that still basically harping out the same shite that they said when he signed, but refusing to basically admit they were wrong? Particularly in Souness's
some people are like that. He just lacks research. When he says he's not good on the ball, he used to play holding midfielder. How can you not good on the ball if you're playing holding midfielder? So obviously he can play as well. The height thing, we talked about this before at the start of the season. It's not an issue. I was 5'8" and I won 85% of mine. And I used to play against big centre halves. It's not about timing as well. So. But no, he's aggressive, he's quick, and then Souness saying he's not that quick either. All right, slow. He's not really. He's quick. He is quite quick.
He's not slow, is he?
No, he's quite. No, not slow at all. And he'll be going to be a real quality centre half for United. I mean, real quality, and he'll do well in the World Cup as well. Argentinian.
Well, like I said to you about Luke Shaw, and I pulled you up on it just now, and not pulled you up, but I mentioned that you had said you thought he was finished, and you've openly admit, you were wrong or whatever. And when you say, we're all, whether it's podcasts, radio, TV, whatever, if you're talking about football or MMA or whatever you're talking about, you're giving an opinion, aren't you? And you base that opinion on what you've seen over the recent weeks. And then sometimes you get it wrong. Or sometimes...
And when you're in a position like that and a player starts well in your position and then suddenly gets injured or suddenly gets pulled out and you get a chance and you take that chance, good on you. Good on you.
100%.
So that's
but these pundits have got to do that too. They've got to admit, I got it wrong.
Don't lack research and don't just, obviously know the game inside out, but just don't do any research or don't really look into it. They just go off of what they see after seeing 90 minutes a game, and just one, not multiple. They've probably seen him 3 or 4 times, and that was at the start of the season when it wasn't really good. The whole team wasn't really good. So that's what they're going it off. And now, if you see it, you can see it's going strength to strength. He's making the players by the side of him better. So it's just rubbish.
It's frustrating as a viewer when I see those sorts of comments, because whether you're a United fan or a Liverpool fan or whatever, you cannot objectively look at the performances of Martinez and the improvement in United and their defence where since he's come in, and then make out that his height is a problem or his speed is a problem or he can't use the ball or he's not good on the ball, because it's factually untrue, which means it makes the comments disingenuous, which then means why should I, if you're saying that about this player, which is like I can see with my own eyes is not true, why am I listening to your other points about other players and other clubs?
It's the same thing with I was probably wrong with Dalot as well. Who would have thought this time last year that Dalot would be playing the way he's been playing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few in there. Even Fred's took a bit of stick, and like I think now, whilst he's not a first choice, he's
Dalot's part of the defence, and Luke Shaw, Dalot, they've been there a long time, and you've never really seen that from Dalot. He's never really had a consistent run, to be honest, to give him a chance. But he went to A.C.E. Milan. They obviously didn't want it, but now the reports are they want it back. So, but no, the defence, De Gea's steps up. No, you need a solid defence. Even when Maguire's stepped in, he's done well, but Lindelof's done well. So
I think Lindelof's good. I do. I think,
but it always helps when you've got a Casemiro in front of you or an Eriksen, or it's a lot easier.
Makes a difference, doesn't it? So Liverpool beat Napoli yesterday. Great result, 2-0 at Anfield. So probably expect them to win, but it's going to be a very tough game. Great result for them. But obviously, they lost on the weekend. Like, I find their lack of consistency quite puzzling. Like, is it just because they got an aging squad, or is there an overriding problem within the squad or the manager? Like, why can Liverpool not get any, a real run of games going? Because
they've had some injuries, haven't they? Had some injuries.
Some of those players are back, though, mate.
No, I know, but just because they're back doesn't mean that they're just going to hit the ground running. You've got to get.
They've been back a couple of weeks, haven't they? They're not like back like yesterday.
Yeah, but the centre half with Virgil van Dijk, he's only just come back. That was his first game.
Yeah, I'd give you him. But Fabinho, is it? Who's the centre midfielder?
I was more thinking of the centre half.
Okay.
Like we talked about United, you need a solid centre half, and you can work off that base. And if you haven't got that, yes, you've got Virgil van Dijk, but he hasn't been great either. So the stepping off, just standing off while people shoot. The Newcastle one, what's he doing? Just go and close the ball down so he can't shoot. You can get a block on it. Then you have got an aging Milner. Yes, he's a fit lad, but he's still 37. Henderson, he's getting on now, even though he's pretty mobile. So, but it just hasn't worked out for him, and it's just not working out for him at the minute.
If we expect Liverpool to win at Anfield against,
but they have, they have beat Manchester City.
Yeah, but they also lost to Leeds on Saturday at home.
Well, and obviously Forest as well, so they've got problems, but they can obviously beat the top side. I mean, top side. Not everyone can do that. It's probably like 2 or 3 teams that can do that in the league.
If I'm a Liverpool fan, should I be concerned by? Is it as simple as saying, right, we've probably got a bit of an old squad, but once the players are all back from injury and whatever, we'll be fine? Or is there? Do they need to address something?
No. It's obviously alarming now, so they'll need to address it either in January, but which you'll pretty think they won't unless anyone stands out in the World Cup or in the summer. But they do need another midfielder. Left back they're all right, right back they're okay. They've just spent 90 million on Darwin Núñez. They've got Diaz, they've got Thiago, Firmino, Salah.
Some players in there, isn't there?
Mane's a big miss.
Yeah, and I would I said to you before, mate. Like the thing with Mane was he was their first line of defense. He was so good at the press, and he's so quick that he'd win the ball high up the field so much for him that it was obviously.
Get used to playing with certain players, and when players are coming in and out, it's not that familiar. It takes time.
Reese says in the comments, the funniest thing he's heard was Guy Neville said, if Trent Alexander could defend, he would be the best right back in the world. What do you make of that? Do you agree with it? Do you find it as funny as Reese did? Like, I think Trent Alexander is good.
Well, there's not many great right backs. Well, name me a great right back in the world.
Well, at the moment,
they don't stand out, do they? Not like a Cafe or a Zanetti or who else was there?
I was trying to think then who's the Brazilian right back now at the moment. I'm trying to think, and you don't know, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's I guess maybe it's
so with his passing ability, his crossing ability. If he could defend, he'd be up there.
He'd be up there.
He'd be up there because, like I said, there's not many great right backs. Name me some great right backs.
But then I think I can't remember if it was you or if it was Andy. When I said just before the last Euros, when Luke Shaw was flying, and I said on form, he's one of the top 3 left backs in Europe, and I can't remember if it was you or Andy, but one of you disagreed. And but I stand by that. At that time, on form, and it was when they brought in Telles, so he had competition. He was one of the best left backs in Europe.
Yeah, when he puts it in, he's quick, he's strong. He's added assists to his game. Sometimes nicks in with a goal.
You think he goes to the World Cup, Luke Shaw?
Oh, he goes to the World Cup and he plays.
Because he hasn't been in the squad, have he? Most recently. Is he or not? I'm not 100% sure. He
started every single game.
I don't watch England, mate. I was just thinking, I couldn't remember it, because I know they were...
He started game, especially with Chilwell out now.
Because they dropped Rashford, didn't they? And I couldn't remember if they dropped Shaw as well.
No, Shaw's been playing.
And Sancho. Sancho was who dropped, wasn't there? I knew there was 2 of them they dropped.
No, Shaw's been playing.
Reece says as well, he said it's like saying if a striker could finish, he'd be a top striker. Defending is Trent Alexander's job. Yes, he's good at other things, but his main job is to defend, and he can't do it.
Correct.
And that's a fair point, isn't it? He's a right back, and it's like Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, that's why he won't play at the World Cup.
And that's why Wan-Bissaka's lost his place at United. But if in reverse, with Wan-Bissaka,
it's the other way. Wan-Bissaka,
he's a great defender, but he can't do the passing and the
crosses.
So where do you
cross it like he's got flippers on?
Yeah, but then where do you draw the line? Because if what Reece is saying there, Trent Alexander's job is defend first and foremost. So if that's the case, why is Wan-Bissaka basically being dropped completely from the squad? If he's such a good defender.
In defence of Trent Alexander, it's not everyone will play that way. Liverpool play that way. They take risks. So he's very high up a lot of the time. So he gets caught out them balls down by the side a lot. But if he's been told to be offensive, and that's going to happen. Obviously, he's got Virgil van Dijk that side to clean up. And obviously the manager knows that. And ultimately, most of the time he does. But still, with some crosses, and you see him, his shape, the way his body shape, and he doesn't look over his shoulders, and people coming from the back of him. He does have to work on his defending.
That's tactical awareness, isn't it? And that's in-game
schoolboy stuff. It is schoolboy stuff, yeah.
Which that's worrying to me, and that's the sort of stuff that you coach my 13-year-old. Looking over your shoulder and being aware of what's around you.
No, but the way he'd be, if the cross is coming from over here, he'd be stood like that instead of so he can see the ball and he can see him. He'd be running back this way, or you've always got to look at the ball, and you can it's basic stuff.
Reece follows up. He says Robertson does the same stuff on the other side, but looks solid at the back. So if he can do it, surely Trent should be able to do it as well.
Down though, he's defensively got a defensive mindset, and he's very good offensive as well. But ultimately, he's a defensive mindset fullback, where Trent Alexander is the total opposite.
So is that because Robertson has come through an EFL club or a football league club, and Trent Alexander's come through at a Premier League club? So at the EFL clubs, they focus more on traditional fullbacks.
Where Robertson's played, he's played at places like Hull City, where he's had to defend backs against the wall, especially when in the Premier League. So he's going to have to know how to defend and defend first. So Trent Alexander's not had that kind of pressure where they're constantly getting barraged, defend. So he's not had that, blooded into him. Where Robertson's had that, probably been around different teams. Same at Scotland sometimes as well.
Robertson made 34 appearances for Queen's Park, then 36 for Dundee, 99 for Hull, and then went to Liverpool. And I would suggest that Queen's Park and Dundee in Scotland and Hull, all, particularly with their young players, would coach them in a very traditional, their fullbacks would be coached in a traditional way. Defend first, do your job defensively first. Don't mess about. Don't take any risks. If you're not sure, put it out, blah, blah, blah. Whereas Trent Alexander coming through that Liverpool Academy will have been play, press. And it's just a different football education, isn't it? But
totally different.
But he's still got to do his job. If he keeps making mistakes, Trent Alexander, eventually Klopp or whoever will find a defender or a fullback who can do the same things offensively, but can also do the job defensively, won't he? Surely.
Possibly.
I know it's a big shout because I know he's popular with Liverpool fans like Trent Alexander. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just saying if he keeps making the same sort of mistakes, there's got to be a point where the manager says, right, there's, is there anyone else out there who can...
You'd think that the kid would work on you, wouldn't you?
Well,
so, yeah. If he wanted to get better, you'd think he'd get better. If he doesn't get better, then he hasn't worked on it.
But then...
And he's just complacent, and then...
How old is Trent Alexander? I don't know, early 20s, something like that. So, if you're a footballer and you're early 20s, right, and you've got a certain weakness in your game, and you haven't got the... And I'm not necessarily...
You make that weakness into a strength.
Yeah, and you work on, you do, you hear stories about Ronaldo taking free kicks for hours after training, or Rooney and all these top pros who went on to be considered legends or the best in the world or whatever at different times. They got one thing in common: Messi, Ronaldo, all of them. They all put in that extra work to, Ronaldo's 2-footed, didn't he? Messi's so good with his left foot, but he still has worked on his right foot that he can, he's not swinging it like a Sunday League footballer. And I just think, do young British players have that mindset now, the ones coming up in the modern day? I'm not saying they do. I'm not saying they don't. I'm asking the question, do they have the mindset to go on their own, do you know what? I've got a weakness in this part of my game. I'm going to go away and I'm going to put in extra hours to work it. Or are they waiting for a coach or a manager to say, I need you to work on this? And if that doesn't come from the coach, then they just don't do it. I don't know. I'm asking the question, I guess.
No, you just obviously, like I said before, the way the manager wants them to play, but you obviously need to stop switching off and just work on it. And like you say, you have to wait and see to see if it keeps on happening. If it keeps on happening, then he's obviously not worked on it.
Yeah.
But if we can see it, I'm sure they can see it.
Just something to get you thinking, which I want to talk about in a bit, is I want to talk about the World Cup and how it could end up being disastrous. We could have all sorts of players missing it because a 2-week injury now keeps you out of the World Cup, pretty much. So I want to talk about that in a bit, so have a little think about that. But let's stick with the Premier League just while we're there. I want to talk to you first and foremost about the Graham Potter derby. Didn't go to plan for Mr. Potter on his first visit back to Brighton.
No, not at all.
And from what I saw, it was brutal. Chelsea were not good.
No, they weren't good, and Brighton were really good and sounded lively there. And it wasn't a good trip back home for him. Brighton played well. Deserved the 3 points.
Few players looked like they were bang up for it. That Trossard, who's in my fantasy league team, he looked like he was.
Yeah, really... he's in mine too, but I left him on the bench.
Oh, nightmare! He looked like a player who had taken it personally that Graham Potter had signed him and then left, because he was just everywhere.
Sometimes it always works out that way, doesn't it? You go back, and you get beat.
I think I thought. As I talked to you about, when Chelsea played United the other week, I was quite impressed with how Potter changed it and changed the game with his tactics and the way he changed it. I thought he did a good job of it, is what I mean. But I do think Chelsea, they got work to do. I'm not convinced by the boy up front. I forgot his name. Kai something Havertz. I'm not convinced by him at all.
Raheem Sterling, wing back. What is that about?
Well, someone, who was it? Some pundit was saying they wouldn't take Raheem Sterling to the World Cup. Like, on current form, he doesn't get in that squad because he's been dreadful for Chelsea.
He plays in a totally different position, and him and Harry Kane goal machines. That pundit needs to be sacked.
But this World Cup is unique, isn't it? Right, because it's in the middle of the season, and I think form is going to count more this time than ever before. Because normally there's a 4 or 5 week break from the end of the season to the World Cup. Anyone who finishes the season badly in form has got 4 weeks to go on holiday.
I disagree. When you playing in a system that you're not really comfortable in, and then you go to a system that you're really comfortable in, you've scored lots of goals in, you're fit, you're healthy. 1 goal, boom, you're off.
Right. I accept that. I accept that for Raheem Sterling, who's playing wing back, and he's not going to play wing back for England. I do accept that. He's going to go and he's going to play with Harry Kane, and he's going to be, happy. But for players who, maybe a striker somewhere who's, hasn't scored a goal all season, can't hit a barn door, and then he goes to the World Cup, like, surely his form, that's going to count.
Who?
Anyone. Could be anyone. I just mean players. If players go to the World Cup out of form,
who's going to pick a player like that if they've got better options?
But if they haven't got better options,
you need to give me
an example. Right, I'll find you an example now. In the meantime, talk to me about Newcastle. 4-0 to Villa. They sit comfortably in the top 4. Callum Wilson, mate, making a bit of a late run for the World Cup squad, do you reckon?
Yeah, it's out of either him or Tony, isn't it? So
my thing I said about the Wales squad the other day was I think it's important for Wales as a small nation with a small pool of players to pick a striker who's going to come off the hoop.
So here you go. Here you go. Kiefer Moore has not played and has not scored all season and not scored. Would you still take him to Wales?
I would, because he's important to how Wales play.
There you go. There's an
example.
However, no.
But there is. If I had this, if Wales picked from the same size pool as England, then I probably wouldn't take him.
Yeah, but
because it's different, isn't it? It's like who else could you take? Now, I was saying the point I was just going to make.
Whoever you're taking is going to be picking up splinters anyway. Kiefer Moore is going to start.
Maybe, but yeah, that's debatable.
But
Kiefer Moore will 2 on the weekend.
Captain, he's sent forward. He's going to be leading goal scorer this World Cup. So he's starting. Who else? People
are lining up to tell you that Kiefer Moore scored 2 on the weekend.
No, I know. I understand that. I know. I'm saying if he didn't score any goals, I know he scored 2 goals. No. 2 fantastic headers, in fact, even though they got beat. But
yeah, no, I get your point. I take your point.
I was giving you an example because you hadn't done your research, and I was helping you out.
Well, it's not. You're the pundit, mate. I'm just the host.
Oh, you brought it up. You give me an example.
So I'm asking you the questions, aren't I? So, well, here's my thing, right? So I said, for instance, you've got Luke Jeff playing on loan at Swindon. He's playing in League 2 at the moment, but he scored, I think, 5 goals in 10 games this season. He's banging form. He's a pretty good player. He's been on the cusp of the Welsh squad previously. I would take him over what's his face? Over Brennan Johnson, absolutely. No, over the one I forgot his name. Tyler. Fuck's sake.
Oh, the Beckett.
No, what's his name?
Leeds United.
Yeah, is it? No, the one he used to play for Swansea. I don't know if he still does. I'll remember it in a minute. Fuck's sake. But I would take him over Tyler Roberts.
Even though
Tyler Roberts,
even though he's playing in League 2.
Yeah, because Tyler Roberts isn't going to play, right? Tyler Roberts he very rarely comes on for Wales. He's not going to play.
Yeah, but
so
is he
I would rather
the same stature as Kiefer Moore? What kind of centre forward is he?
Yeah, he's a big boy, but he's quite skillful as well.
Okay.
So I would take him over Tyler Roberts purely because he's on form. Because then if you need a goal and you've got a striker on the bench who's on form,
why not take all three?
Well, it depends. Yeah, if you've got enough room, then you could take all of them. Yeah.
Of course, you make room. It's what you need to do. The hardest thing you need to do in the game is score goals. So you take Kiefer Moore, Brendan Johnson, Tyler Roberts, and this kid. There's 4 strikers.
Yeah, and then there's a few others. Tom Bradshaw, I think, is a good shout.
Then you've got 22 other players to choose from.
Yeah, and I think there's also there's certain players in that Welsh pool who will not get a look in. And unfortunately, I think Tom Bradshaw is one of them. Tom Lawrence won't get a look in. If Tom Lawrence wasn't going to get picked last year when the form he was in, he's never going to get picked. But for instance, mate, Wales took Ruben Colwell to the Euros last time out, right? He was playing for Cardiff, not week in, week out, but regularly. And we didn't play him. We just sat on. There was no point in taking him. It was take him for experience. But there was that Italy game where we were already through and he changed the team up. And he didn't even come on. So, to me, I'd rather than take a young player who's not, who's just there literally just for the experience of going, like when England took Theo Walcott when he was 16. I think it's a waste of space, particularly for Wales who've got such a small thing of players. If you can find a striker, even if he's a bit lower league than what you did, there's a boy, Cooper from Swansea. Oh, Craig's just said as well. I was talking to someone about him the other day. There is Welsh players who aren't in the squad currently who are banging form, scoring goals. And I think it's important to take particularly forwards into this World Cup because of it being in the season. And I think England, even though they got such a big pool of players, I think they need to consider that as well. And my question is has Raheem Sterling got enough goodwill in the bank from Gareth Southgate to keep his place in the squad and the starting lineup?
1,000,000%.
Do you still think he starts as well?
1,000,000%.
Interesting.
I would bet my house on it.
Interesting. I think he goes. I'm not 100% sure he starts at the moment.
Do you want to bet?
No, I'm not a gambling man, mate. Certainly not in England.
I'll get good odds off Paddy. I'll bring him.
Of Paddy, yeah.
Yeah,
ambassador. Got to live for the rewards, mate. Live for the rewards. Right, back to Newcastle, mate. Newcastle, where is their ceiling this year?
Top 4. 3rd or 4th. Not going to get 2nd or 1st. Forget that. But 3rd or 4th.
Say they are, right, at the moment, they are 5 points off Man City, right?
Yeah.
Say, I don't know, in January 1st, after the Christmas period, January the 2nd, after the Christmas period, Newcastle are 3rd, and they're still 4 or 5 points off Man City in top. Why can't they go and sign 3 or 4 top quality players and challenge for 2nd, and then you never know what happens?
Top quality players again. Go on. I know you're not. Go on. Give me some names.
But you're telling me there's no top players who would go to Newcastle for money?
Who? Because you don't want to be getting the wrong people. We've done this at United. You're getting the wrong people. The names: Sanchez, Pogba.
So the players you don't necessarily want, the players who are going to go there for money,
because they go into a club and they disturb it, and then the flow's messed up. So you have to bring the right players in. You just don't bring them in willy-nilly. 3 players in, that's going to disturb the whole squad that's got them where they're at. So
if they so then in that case, how can Newcastle bridge that gap? Because at the moment, all they've got to offer, with all due respect, is money.
The only way they can do it is they bring a marquee signing in. One marquee signing, a top player, whoa.
What about if they sign that boy from
when they did Asprilla or Shearer or Owen? You're like, whoa.
That young striker at Atletico Madrid, they're out of Europe. He's got a release clause of the young one. I found
the Portuguese kids, Felix.
Felix. Yeah, I think he's got 100 million release clause. They're out of Europe completely. Newcastle go in, they play the release clause.
Yeah, someone like that. Then you'd be like, whoa. Because
if he comes in,
why can't they? He's guaranteeing you 15, 20 goals and, possibly 10, 15, 20 goals. 20 would be lovely after Christmas till whenever it finishes this year. But, something like that. They're not going to bring in 2 or 3, mate. It's not going to happen. Because, like I say, it'll disturb the whole group that's got them there. They've got a good team at the minute. One player, even that makes everyone, even the team, the squad, like, whoa, yeah, now we're going places. We've got this kid in.
But you know what? The other way, I think, for Newcastle is, I think the most important thing for them this year is to get Champions League spot. If they can get in the Champions League, they can offer in the summer. Then they can offer more than just money because they've got that Champions League space, which is obviously United had to pay over the odds for so many players when they were out of they always do, don't they? Every time they drop out of the Champions League, they've got to pay more wages. They've got to pay bigger transfer fees because you're asking a player to miss a Champions League season. So it's an interesting question from Craig, right? He says, if Newcastle can only get 3rd or 4th, who are you saying is going to finish 2nd behind Man City?
It could be, Chelsea, United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool. Probably not Liverpool this year.
Liverpool are 9th.
There's 4. So there's 4. Tottenham, Chelsea, United, Arsenal.
Right. So you think Arsenal and Tottenham will be good enough from now to the end of the season to finish 2nd and run City?
They're all good enough, mate. Tottenham have been terrible, but the 3rd. I just
don't see, especially after watching them.
The bigger games. When they let the shackles off, they're a good team. When you watched that game yesterday, the first half was dreadful, and they come out second half and absolutely battered them. They battered them.
Interesting.
And away from home, the Champions League, which is very, very difficult, and they've let the shackles off and they've battered them. And one of the best players who got carried off and has to have eye surgery and probably will miss the World Cup with Son.
Yeah, I think Arsenal are a stronger contender than Tottenham.
Arsenal,
I just don't see it with Tottenham.
United looking strong.
I think the biggest mistake United will make.
Get things together. Arsenal, I'm still like hesitant with Arsenal. Still not.
It's because because of previous years, isn't it? Like Reece says.
Yeah. Well, it's a long season. They lose a couple of players. They lose a couple of games. We know what their fan base is like. So,
I think the biggest mistake United could make.
I still think Arsenal get top 4, but 2nd, 1st, no, not for me.
I think it'll depend on some of it will depend on how United develop. Did you listen to Pep's quote? Pep's talking about Ten Hag the other day.
Yeah.
He was saying
he thinks everyone can see it now.
He thinks United are back, and he thinks give them, if you give Ten Hag a year or so, they'll be right challenging for the title again. And I think a mistake by United would not be to bring in a right back. I don't think you can get a striker in January, but I think they could get a right back. It's about getting the right one.
They should have got Kieran Trippier.
Yeah, would have been perfect, mate, wouldn't he? And it was weird because he's a United fan. It all seemed like it was done and dusted.
Yeah.
I had multiple people telling me.
It was nearly, which I was getting told, but no, it didn't work out.
I remember me and you were talking about it, weren't we? Like it was pretty much done. Yeah. And then it just never seemed to quite get over the line. Like it was always like, they're going to get these out of the way and then Trippier will be coming in, and then he just didn't.
No.
You mentioned Son, mate, got an eye injury last night, and this is the problem. Jamie Carragher had a massive rant about it on CBS Sports, like the American version of BT or whatever.
Yeah.
And he said he thinks it's a disgrace, and he said it all started with Qatar being awarded the World Cup because they campaigned for the World Cup in the summer, and obviously it's too hot in the summer, so you can't play then. So then they've moved it to the middle of the season, and now you've got players who, if they pick up an injury this weekend, and it could just be like a 2 or 3 week thing, where normally you've got 4-5 weeks sometimes to recover before the tournament starts, you're out of the World Cup. So you could end up, right, if the worst happens and all the biggest names in the world pick up niggles and injuries over this next weekend or so, like the next couple of
because
games.
they're all trying to cram a load of games in because the season condensed.
Because it's the World Cup. You could end up with all sorts of players missing for you. Like all the players you want to see in the World Cup, they could all be sat on the bench because they got hamstring injuries. And like you imagine
debating about it on TalkSport today. I was listening to it and they were saying the same thing. It's ridiculous. It's
so
ridiculous.
You had Rafael Varane go off the other day in tears because he thought he was going to miss it. Looks like he's going to be back like as it starts.
Yeah,
Chilwell. You've got Son.
He's got no chance because he's a hamstring. Son, it's his eye, so maybe he can get a mask or in 2 weeks.
De Bruyne's broke his eye socket and his nose.
He's one of their top players. They could probably give him 3 weeks. So
you got De Bruyne's injured. Broke his nose, I think. So
but
Timo. Look, imagine, right, just for instance, right, Ronaldo, 37. This is probably his last World Cup. Probably. I say that because I don't. If there's anyone who could do a World Cup when he's like 41, it's probably him.
No, he's 37 now. He's a beast still, isn't he?
Yeah. But like, imagine how, like, let's assume this is his last World Cup. At his age as well, playing the amount of games he's playing, you imagine he picks up like a hamstring injury or something on the weekend. Like, does anyone really want to see a World Cup without Ronaldo? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that would be a big blow to the tournament overall.
Yeah,
but then, like Craig makes a good point. He says, but international teams still played friendlies after the league finished, and you'd have like warm-up games. There's always injuries. Yeah, but I just think because there's no recovery time. Is there?
Not intense like Premier League games. These warm games like friendlies.
Well, you look how close the Premier League is, mate. Like this year,
it's not even a comparison. When you're playing a football friendly game, you're 50-60%.
And in those warm-up games, they tend to change the whole team, don't they? Like half time because they want to give everyone a run out and stuff. So
ridiculous. No,
I just hope that, like, from a Welsh point of view, I hope that the big boys don't pick up any injuries. I hope, to be honest with you, I hope all the big.
United have got 3. Well, they've had 3 games left, but they've played one tonight. They've got Villa, and then they've got the Carabao Cup in the next week
against Villa as well. That isn't it?
Is that against Villa? Well, yeah.
Like, well, to be honest with you, if any Premier League side is playing in that Carabao Cup and they're playing their first team, a week before the World Cup starts, I would not be happy if I was. Yeah, true. Look, I would not be happy if I was Ronaldo or Harry Maguire or whoever.
United have got a big enough squad where you could probably play Wan-Bissaka. Maguire probably needs a game.
You could play Garnacho. You could
someone
play
else.
But even
like Malacia, you could play McTominay. You could play Fred. So the Garnacho.
But then,
so you'll see a probably changed team for that.
But then what you have then, mate, right, is you have players who haven't played very much football going and playing an intense game a week before the World Cup. So you have Malacia, who's a Dutch international. You have Fred, Brazilian international.
Yeah, Fred's been playing.
Yeah, no, I accept that. Ganusho's played a couple of games, but I mean, these guys who haven't played, if they're suddenly playing an intense game because they're rotating, they've got more chance of getting injured a week before the World Cup.
It's what they do for a living. It's the job.
I understand that.
What the club's going to do? Oh no, we're not going to play you because you've got a World Cup.
No, I think my gripe is
you could go away and get injured and come back to us injured.
Yeah.
What happens then?
Yeah, so, no. I get that.
Ways, doesn't it? They can go away, have a massive World Cup, come back injured, and they're out for 6 weeks, and they've got to pay for it. So it works both ways, mate. It really does work both ways. I'm sure some of them will be on autopilot. Where some
I blame FIFA, mate. Holy.
Yeah, it's a joke. That's Sepp Blatter. You're still choking on that brown envelope you got.
Choking. He needs prison now.
Was that thick? No, he got away with it. Him and Platini.
Of course he did. Don't know why I'm surprised. Just want to finish off, mate, on the championship. If that is all right with you.
We're not finishing up with Super 6. We talked about that. Yeah, we have, haven't we? Yeah. I've got to get binoculars to see how far you down. How far down you are.
Sorry, mate,
when you you're scrolling down, it takes me ages to scroll down to see where you are on the list. I'm like, where is it? No, there it is.
Sorry, mate, you broke up a bit then. I didn't quite catch what you said. Hull City have appointed Liam Rossignol as their full-time head coach for a 2.5-year deal. That a good selection, former player.
Yeah, very good. He's obviously did a good job at Derby as well. Helping Wayne Rooney out. Obviously, done well in the interview because that's a big job. I'm sure the big managers would have gone for that. Or coaches. So, yeah, it's good to get these young coaches. These young coaches are coming through now, and they're not frightened, not overawed, and some of them are doing really, really well. So, you've got to give them because some of these old, managers like Nick McCarthy's and Steve Bruce's, and come on, turn it in now. You've had your day. Just give it to the young kids, and then, yeah.
Well, this is what we've been calling for, mate, isn't it? This is what, when I was ranting about Mick McCarthy and Neil Harris and the rest of them, like, this is what I've been saying, is there's coaches out there who are doing a decent job. Give them a chance. Yeah, there's coaches out there who are cutting their teeth.
They have to have time. Look at Richie Williams. Got 6-7 months at Salford. Now he's flying top of the league with Leyton Orient because he's had time.
Oh, Gary Neville has left. What's called Salford, don't he?
Because Leyton Orient come to Salford. He's at Leyton Orient this weekend. Actually, just gone, and they beat Salford 1-0. But that tastes nice for Richie. That actually, I need to give him a message. Should have messaged him. But they're flying.
Coach.
Yeah, they're flying. But this is what happens when you give someone time. He's done it before with Swindon, but obviously didn't like the way he operated or they talked, or he's probably a bit stubborn and liked to do it his way and didn't like anyone meddling, and they probably didn't like that. And yes, thanks, but no thanks. And he's gone to Leyton Orient, and you look like the flying top of the league. And there you go.
Just be quick
before we go on over, by the way. Yeah, Nicky Butt.
Yeah, there's not going to be much change, is there? I don't think there'll be a massive difference.
It just won't be micromanage anymore. I just leave it to Nicky, and he can sort the day-to-day out.
On the Liam Rossignol thing, Will says 2.5-year deal these days means they have 1 year to do their thing, and then they get a payoff for 18 months. No manager is ever given the time. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is he won't get 2.5 years.
No, but you don't want to give someone a 4.5-year deal, and he's still a young manager. So that's after a year.
No, I get that, but I just mean
after a year, if he's doing all right, then we'll give him a 4-year contract. But
yeah,
understand it.
I think the point being that they just don't give him time, do they? He's realistically, and if you've got a 2.5-year deal, you've got a year to sort of prove your worth, maybe 18 months.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you've got a 5-year contract or 2-year contract. You start losing, you're getting sacked. So it's just how much do they want to pay you? It's just common sense. It's a result business.
Just before we talk about the championship, Man City, Rico Lewis, 17-year-old kid, scored for them against Seville. Was racially abused, mate. Like, to me, the problem will continue to be the same.
Racially abused, weren't they playing at home?
No, they were playing at Seville, weren't they? No, it was at the Etihad Stadium. You are right. But Seville fans was racially abused him, apparently. But my point is, right, is...
Didn't he score?
I think he did, yeah.
There you go.
Until UEFA and FIFA make an example of these teams or the fans and they actually like make an example of it, like when a team or their fans or whatever do this racial abuse and they make a massive example of them and they give him such a harsh punishment that other teams look around and they think their fans think, Jesus, like it actually is going to make a difference. It's not going to change because they give him a piffling fine, which the local government probably picks up anyway.
£1,000 fine or something.
Yeah, like a week's wage. That's like a week's wages for most of the squad, isn't it?
Yeah,
in that Seville team, like 20 grand. What? There's nothing. Nothing will change until UEFA and FIFA make a fundamental change in how they punish teams for it. And to me, that won't change until the people in charge of those organizations are different people, not just the guy at the top. It's got to be like a fundamental change of the board, if you like, of all the people who run those organizations. And you're never going to get all those people out. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got so much power within football, with those sort of 4 or 5 at the top of UEFA and FIFA, that they're not going to let go of that power. You've seen Seb Blatter and Michel Platini; they were going to go to jail, and they still wouldn't let go of the power until the very last minute. Like they had to literally be dragged off, kicking and screaming. It's sad to see, mate, that in 2022 it's still going on, though. I got to say. I said about how tight the championship is. The Premier League is, mate. The championship is just as tight. It's remarkable just how tight it is.
Cardiff struggled last night at home, didn't they?
Well, they were winning, weren't they? And they just, I don't know what. There's just no plan, mate. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know if they're keeping Hudson. They don't know if they're gonna keep him to the end of the season. They brought in Dean Whitehead, like to help him out, but like. To me, that feels like they're just getting him ready in case they have to sack Mark Hudson, and they're going to put Dean. It's ridiculous, mate. And until the club answers questions or has a long-term plan, it's never going to work. Doesn't matter who they bring in, doesn't matter what they do. Until they've got a long-term plan in place, it won't work. And because they just. It's like they do it day by day, mate. Not even week by week. It's like they just change their mind day by day how they're going to run the football club. Absolute joke. Coventry, mate, comfortably out of the relegation zone now. Still got a couple of games in hand. They're up to 20th. Huddersfield, West Brom, and Wigan are the bottom 3 in the championship, that's some big clubs there, mate.
Yeah. They're all big clubs now, aren't they? So.
Yeah, there's not many small clubs.
Look at some of the big teams that are in the league lower. So, your Ipswiches, there's some big clubs down there.
Yeah, it's no easy games, mate. Like anyone could beat anyone in the championship anyway, but like some big clubs. To me, I think the top 4 as it is now, they look the best teams in the league. So you got Burnley, I think on their day, probably the best team in the league. Blackburn have been there or thereabouts over the last couple of seasons. They look like they're really clicking. Sheffield United have been very impressive this year, much better than I thought they were going to be. And QPR, I think, have been exceptional. And then you've got Norwich, Watford, Swansea, Preston, Millwall, Luton, Reading, Sunderland, Birmingham. Like all those teams are only a few points between them, like right down to, like you could go as far as 13th to Birmingham on 24.
Did you say Swansea then?
No. But I mean, even Cardiff, right? They're in 18th on 21 points. They're 8 points off the playoffs. Like we discussed the other week, right? 8 points in the championship. Like, it's not that much of an ask. Like, if you get a run together and win 4 or 5 games, you can make up like a 5 or 6 point gap quite quickly. Like, look at Swansea. They were down, what was it? 21st or 22nd, probably 4 or 5 games ago, and they're now 7th, looking like they're going to really make a push for it. Craig says Coventry will be top half, one of the best to have played at Cardiff this year. I think Coventry was so good last year. I felt for them a bit that they were struggling, not really through any fault of the players. It was purely a pitch. They kept having these games called off at the start of the season. Craig also says Steve Morrison was Cardiff's long-term plan and they binned him off. And no one still knows the reason for that, by the way, if it was results or if he fell out with the board or whatever. So that could be anything. But then Will makes a point. I don't know if you agree with this. He says no football club has got a long-term plan these days. The average lifespan of a manager is about 18 months.
Yes.
So no one plans long-term.
I totally agree with that. You can get somewhere and have a plan and it all goes to pot when you start losing games and the fans start stomping the feet. So, the game plans are hunky and dory. So you lose 3 games in a row and then the knives are out. So it's a result driven business. And if you don't get results, you get the old P45.
Here's a question then: which football clubs within the British system now are currently working on with a long-term plan? Do you think, like in terms of probably that manager's going to be there for a few years?
Ten
Hag, Pep,
Graham Potter. I think Chelsea with new owners aren't going to be sacking managers left, right, and centre.
Okay,
they've got their man now. Yeah, Tuchel wasn't there.
Arsenal.
He's been there 3 years already.
Can't see him getting rid of him, can you?
No, so another 3 years. That's 6 years. That's really good at this climate. Eddie, I would say, he's an eggshells. He's an eggshells.
Yeah, of course, yes. As soon as he loses a couple of games, because they can pretty much bring in.
They don't qualify for the Champions League. They might sack him after that. We've got him to this point, and then they don't. You never know.
I think that's fair. I mean, it hurts to say, like Reece says there, Swansea always have a long-term plan, a manager. They play the same style of football. They bring in a manager who fits that style.
Burnley have one.
Yeah, I think Burnley have got a long-term plan. Sheffield United, I think you could say, have got a pretty solid base. Blackburn, it's weird, right? Blackburn have got
when your manager turns down a Premier League job.
Yeah, I think that tells you a lot, doesn't it? About how he feels about the structure in the World Cup and stuff. About not the World Cup, about the football club. It's interesting. I will be fascinated to see how the Championship ends up this year, because I think it's just even more unpredictable than ever. Premier League as well. Let's do our Super 6 predictions, mate, to finish off, and then we'll put it to bed. Gaz wants to know as of today, who do you think will win the World Cup?
I think it's going to be a South American team. So there you go. That can be either one or two. But I think it's going to be a South American team.
Okay.
So either Brazil or Argentina.
How far do you think Wales will get?
Last 16.
Okay.
They'll get through the group, and they'll obviously be second in the group, and they'll get, a strong, obviously someone who's won their group.
Looks like they'd probably get Netherlands or Senegal, I think it is.
Yeah, so Holland, playing at Holland. Although, Holland, still, we'll give them a good game. If we give Belgium a good game, we can give Holland a good game. So, I think Kiefer Moore could give Van Dijk problems. He won't like defending against him at all. So, possibly quarterfinals then. But you never know. You
what would you be happy with as a Welshman?
The team's fit. Gareth Bale's give us
one last hurrah.
One last hurrah, yeah. So you just never know. But I'd be happy with. Be more than happy with the quarterfinals, but last 16 would be good as long as we get out of the group.
Yeah, I think getting out of the group, getting out of the group and getting to play like a knockout game for Wales, I think is a good result. I think
in a knockout, you never know.
I do think if Wales don't get out of that group, I do think that's a failure, because I think they should get out of that group.
What? It's a failure where Robert Page loses his job.
Not sure if I'd go quite that. I don't know. See, because I do think they should be out of that group. So do I. The fact of the matter is, whilst I don't think there's particularly much pressure on Wales, I also do think that group
and Robert Page will have a little insight from Gareth Bale on some of the players that come up against, because Bale would have seen him in the MLS.
Yeah, some of the guys who I do a podcast with, like American guys. And if you go and have a look at the American social media,
that's awesome.
Will you look at it, right, mate? You go and have a look on social media with the Americans talking about the World Cup. They think they're going to win the group. They think they're going to smash Wales 5-6-0. They think that Wales and Iran is.
You realise this is an American football, right? This is soccer.
Mate, honestly, they've written us off, which I think, great.
This is not the NFL. This is soccer, people. Come on. USA are going to get stomped on.
And I don't even think, I'm not as worried so much as I was previously about if Gareth Bale is missing. Like I've always said Ramsey is more important to how Wales play than Bale is. Like if Brennan Johnson starts with Daniel James.
You've got to wrap him in cotton wool.
Of course.
He's your X factor, mate.
I mean, I'd rather he played, of course, every time. But I'm just saying, if Bale was injured for the first game, I would be Brennan Johnson and Daniel James.
The previous manager and the manager now have worked on bringing these young lads, blooded them through to know if we don't have a Gareth Bale, we can still cope. And they have done a few times. So yeah, they've been there and done that before. So, but you still want him.
Yeah, I think you've got to give him credit, haven't you? The previous manager and Robert Page and obviously John Toshak, Gary Speed, like these are the guys who started it and carried it on. And Coleman, they like when your brother took over from Coleman, he had a bit of a rocky start, but he did the same thing.
But that was always going to be the way because that's the change that the experienced lad sitting on the bench and young lads playing and blooding them through. Yes, you're going to get some dodgy results, but now you're reaping the rewards from it.
Yeah, and I think once he got rid of some of the older players from the squad and trusted those younger players, he got things going. Yeah. And then Page has done the same.
Your Ampadu, your Brookses. I know Brooks hasn't played, but a few for a bit. But your Nico Williams is they've
all benefited from it, haven't they?
Yeah.
Right. Super 6, my friends. Man City at home to Fulham is the first one up.
4-1. No, 2. No, 3-1.
To Fulham, yeah?
City.
I'm going 4-0 City. Leeds United at home to Bournemouth.
1-2 Bournemouth. Leeds have a great result and get beat at home with Bournemouth. That's how I see that going.
Yeah, I think Leeds, they seem to prefer to play away at the moment. I'm going to go with a 2-1 to Bournemouth, I suppose. No, 2-0 Bournemouth, actually.
Yeah.
2-0 Bournemouth. Everton at home to Leicester.
2-2.
And I will go with a 2-1 to Everton. Chelsea versus Arsenal. I will go with 1-1 there. No, actually, I scrapped that. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Arsenal.
1-1.
Southampton at home to Newcastle. It's a difficult Super 6 this week.
1-3 Newcastle.
1-3 Newcastle, is it? I'm going to go with 2-0 Newcastle. 2-0.
That is some... I know you haven't got a clue because you know how to get round Cardiff.
Of course I do.
But that is some trek, that. Newcastle to Southampton. They must be getting it. Well, it takes me 6 hours to get to Southampton from here, right? And it takes me about 3 hours to get to Newcastle from here. So do the maths.
9-hour drive. That can't be right, can it?
Do the maths. It's a trek. It's Newcastle.
They must fly up.
Scotland. Oh, they will. Yeah, of course they will. Because if they went by coach, I don't think we'd even make it because the driver's got to have a break. You can only drive for 4.5 hours.
Jesus. Yeah, it's a brutal one. So yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 Newcastle for that one. And then lastly, Spurs versus Liverpool at Spurs.
What's that last one?
Tottenham at home to Liverpool.
No Son, no Richarlison. 2-1 Liverpool.
Liverpool's form in the Premier League is ropey. They've lost 2 of the last 3 to Leeds and Forest. But in the big games against the big teams, they do tend to do well. I'm going to go with a 2-1 2-1 Liverpool. There we go. It's in the bank. The predictions are in. That is a rancid Super 6 this week.
Yeah.
That could be a 0 points for me. I can feel it coming already.
We'll see.
Go.
I'm like that now with you. Where's Saigon?
Oh, a massive, what was it, 9 points? Make that up in a week, mate.
Yeah.
Come on.
Where's
Saigon yourself? Right. Nice one, guys, for joining us. All the comments and whatnot. Enjoy it. It is going to be interesting Super 6 this week. Have a good one. Of course, do please check out patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Loads of exclusive shows and stuff on there. Got some new podcasts coming out soon as well.
Down there. There he is.
Rhodri's funny. He's a funny boy.